Okay. All right. So we are live, guys. Um, Tonight we're talking about a very popular subject in music. Let me get the right thing going here. There we go. It's much talked about nowadays tonight as our discussion, which is AI. What's it going to do to the music industry? What has it done to the music industry? What are our predictions for the future of music? Is music, are music creative types doomed? Should they start looking for other jobs? Should they go back to school and retrain, learn how to do other things? Or is this going to only open up things and actually make just be a tool that we add to our tool belt and only make us more skilled and proficient in what we do? So we're going to very quickly have you introduce yourself. I have put a little bit of your bio in the description down there, as well as a link to your own YouTube channels. And I highly encourage you to check out both Keith and Harrison's YouTube channels. Excellent content on those. And be sure to subscribe. You know, it's really hard to get subscribers nowadays. It's really hard to get people to even hit that bell so you don't miss an upload. But I am convinced that if you watch some of Keith's content and Harrison's content, you're going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to, smash the like button and hit subscribe. So do all that stuff. Yeah.
Gently stroke the
gently,
like button.
Yes. It's a very delicate like button. So
just drop a paperweight onto the subscribe button. Just gently.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, go ahead, Keith. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Keith Horn. I'm a lifelong Van Halen fan. I'm a composer, arranger, orchestrator. Most of the work I do these days is for Disney TV animation, and that's what I'm doing. And I was working up until 15 minutes ago. I was a very busy day
wow.
today.
Yeah.
And I also have a YouTube channel. It's my name, and most of the content is a series called Chord of the Week, where I talk about an individual chord I pull from all kinds of sources: film music, theater, classical, orchestral, and when I'm not working, I do that stuff. So that's me.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
All right, your turn, Harrison. Go away.
Yep, I'm Harrison. I these days, most of the work I do in music professionally is just with piano performance, but I went to school for composition, and I still write, arrange, and transcribe for fun, most of which gets uploaded to my YouTube channel sooner or later when I get around to finishing it. But yeah, that's me. Music has always been a big part of my life, and happy to have this chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a comment here from Earl Keith. Thank you
I
for
like
commenting.
His name.
Yes. Anybody with the name Keith and
I'm a
Chris
fan already.
in their name is cool. So, all right. So thank you for joining us, Earl. Feel free to whether you're watching this live with us, whether you're watching it after it's been posted, feel free to put a comment or ask questions. We will respond to it when we get a chance. We are apparently, as you've seen already, very busy people. So, all right. So a little bit about myself. You probably already know a little because you're either subscribed to my channel or probably have watched some of my content. But in case you haven't, I am Chris Wright. I graduated with Keith from North Carolina School of the Arts back in 2002. It's hard to believe that was 22 years ago. My goodness, we're
It was
old.
before electricity. It was so long ago.
Yeah. We had to walk uphill both ways in snow, 10
Right.
feet.
Yeah,
But I actually work in the software industry now. But I have scored some as well as play piano myself. So we're all either former composers, current composers, musicians, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So we're going to dive right in. Now, we do have a third guest tonight that I'll reveal here in a little bit. And it happens to be probably the best expert on music and AI that I could get. Now, Keith is asking something here. Indie marketing. Could you elaborate on that? What you mean? You talking about the indie market of music and maybe how AI is going to affect the indie market, and best distributor. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So maybe elaborate if you get a chance on that. All right, so let's dive right in. So Keith, your background, you tell us what you did when you lived in the windy city of Chicago.
In Chicago, I did ad music. That's pretty much all they had available for composers at the time, was music for commercials. So every few days, an assignment would come in, and it was a different type of music every time. And I did that for about 3 years straight in Chicago.
And did you have actual footage to score to, or did they just say, "Hey, look, we just need like a funky Caribbean style, beat for 30 minutes"?
We always were scoring to picture. It was a 30-second spot every time for various types of clients. It was different every time. So we were always scoring to picture. The fun fact, the first job I did was still on a VHS tape with striped time code, and I had to deliver a CD by hand. The second job was uploaded and downloaded digitally. So I was like,
oh, wow.
I literally bridged analog to digital as far as delivery of music in the third week of June of 2002.
Yeah, I still have some of those VHS tapes from our School of the Arts days with student films on them with the time code on there and stuff. So, interesting. So do you feel like AI has got more of a chance to take over that type of industry where you're not doing any long form stuff? Because as you know, AI has been, you can use AI to write emails, you can do it to write short essays and stuff, but AI is yet to bridge the gap in writing something like a novel. So in other words, that's where one of the things I feel like we can talk about is when you're dealing with long form, and even novels are not just defined by their length. They're defined by character development and how you tie in things in the beginning, come back at the end. Just like in a symphony, in a Beethoven symphony, like the Ninth, you hear all, the themes in the first, second, third movements, and then he brings them back in the fourth movement, and it gives this whole other meaning to them. So how would you speak to that? Because on 30 seconds, you can't really, unless if you're Bach doing something where you've got 5 levels going on all at once, I don't see how you could really distinguish much of what a human can bring to the picture versus AI, generative AI for a 30-second spot. How would you speak to that?
I think in advertising, there are certain types of spots, certain types of commercials where I think the ad clients themselves could easily hire an in-house person to just create AI music for certain spots. If it's tightly scored in certain moments, you have to hit every single moment, and it's meticulously scored. AI probably can't do that. I don't know if it'll ever be able to do that in a way that's convincing for human beings or engaging for a human being. But if it's a voiceover where somebody's talking about their car dealership or something, where it's just here's our product, come on down to so and so, I think it might have more inroads. AI might have more inroads for local advertising.
Yes. Yeah, I could see
possibly.
that. Yeah. And
but I could see Coca-Cola easily creating music too. People that are working for Coca-Cola.
Yeah. If they haven't already, and that's kind of the scary thing with AI right now is that I remember when AI started being used in journalism years ago, and that was like the spooky thing, it was like, chances are you've already read an article written by AI, in a major publication, and people are very secretive about that, and the weird thing with AI, and I'd like to speak about this too, is I hear a lot of people that experiment with Udio and suno and stuff like that, they're so proud of what they make in it. And that's both a good thing and kind of a dangerous thing, because you didn't really make anything. You put in a prompt.
Right, define make.
Yeah. But I have had friends send me stuff knowing I'm a musician and have a master's degree in music, and they're like, ooh, check out what I made. And I know for a fact that they're not a musician. I mean, nothing against them, but like, you didn't really make this in the same way I listen to the music that you do, Harrison and Keith, and in the same way that you write music and craft something truly from your unique mind. So, but let me give Harrison a second to respond to both of those points. Harrison, about the short form music, and then what I just said about, taking pride in something you created.
Well, what I have to say on AI really applies to everything. So
Hmm.
I kind of have more of an overarching view on the development of AI and how it's going to affect society as a whole. Um, Basically, my belief is that AI eventually will surpass humans at everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Music, writing, uh, engineering, mathematics. Really doesn't matter. And then if you put the AI into robotic bodies, then it'll probably surpass us in physical
Wow.
means as well. But I come to that belief basically by two premises. And the first is that everything in the universe is just information. Matter is information, music is information, um, electrical signals in the brain, human emotions. It's all just information with varying degrees of complexity and varying um, quantities of information embedded within. But at the end of the day, everything is information. And so if you have access to enough information, then you could understand, replicate, or iterate upon anything. And the special thing about AI is that it has far greater access to information than a single human ever could. Far greater capacity for processing and organizing information than a human brain ever could.
Yeah.
And
And the,
AI, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, in the recall, like a human can spend all day reading a bunch of books, but they're probably only able to recall, the average human probably about 5 to 10% of what they read. So
Right. Whereas AI recall would be perfect as far as I could tell. So the other thing about AI is that it's growing at an exponential rate. And this is something that as humans, we generally have a hard time comprehending growth on exponential scales. The human brain is wired to understand things on a linear scale. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. It's easy for us to wrap our heads around that. Whereas exponentially, you have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Things double at every unit of time.
yeah,
And that's what's happening with AI, is that it's growing at an exponential rate, not a linear one. So it's going, well, at the point where we are now. I was just reading earlier that depending on how you loosely define IQ, IQ as a measurement doesn't perfectly map onto what AI is yet, but if we tried to, you could say AI is already approximately at an IQ of 160 or higher, which is about where
yeah,
Einstein was.
yeah,
And AI, according to Moore's law, which is this observable principle that, the computing power and technology is doubling every year. If AI, which is currently as smart as Einstein, continues to double in capacity every year, then in 1 year, we're going to have AI twice as smart as Einstein. Then in 2 years, 4 times.
yeah.
And in 3 years, 8 times. And so I think that it's easy to underestimate just how advanced AI is going to become and how soon it'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you start dealing in exponentials, things get astronomically huge real quick. I mean, it's kind of like when we try to imagine how large the universe is.
Right.
Our brains cannot even start to understand that.
There's a very fun thought experiment. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. The paper folding experiment. Have you heard of this
Yeah,
at all?
you can only fold it like what, up to 36 times, and then it becomes impossible or something like that.
Well, it's actually a demonstration of how counterintuitive exponentiality is. So if you fold a piece of paper in half, you double its thickness, and then you keep folding it. And then the question is, how thick do you think that paper would be if you could fold it 42 times?
Oh, probably taller than we think a skyscraper would be or something. It's crazy. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah,
physically impossible, but if you could, that piece of paper would reach the moon after
yeah,
42 folds.
absolutely. So,
So,
yeah, it's crazy to think about. And I watched a video earlier today where someone played where AI create generated music was 5 years ago, and it looked like some kid had just noodled around in GarageBand. It was horrible. It was
yeah.
unlistenable to, and that was just 5 years ago. And then they played like something they just made in Udio that day, and I would have never guessed it was. Matter of fact, the way he did it was deceptive. He actually pulled out his guitar and mimicked like he was playing on it, and then he stopped playing and he kind of looked at the camera and laughed. And he was like, "This wasn't me. This was AI. I thought it was a live guitar. It's like he like doing a improvised riff." So
That's interesting.
yeah. So real quick, Eric, Keith asked this here. How is AI going to affect human composers? I think you meant composers there. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're going to get into a little bit more. So have your advice for indie artists that's trying to get exposure, maybe even evaluated by the major label. Well, you can get signed on with a major label, no problem. It's just an extremely expensive process because they're going to want you to reimburse them for all their really expensive studio musicians and equipment and all like that. So unless if you're making hands over fist money at it, then they're probably not all that much really interested in doing extended business with you. But they'll gladly take, if you have $10,000, they will gladly sign you up and take that $10,000 from you very quickly. My advice, and I don't know how much you want to take it because I am not a professional musician, but I do follow some on YouTube, and it seems like with the indie market, stay indie. Like, it's getting increasingly more difficult to get into like the mainstream, and it's just extremely competitive. And because AI is there to create now backing tracks and all like that, you're going to be dealing with even more competition. So only the best of the best of the best of the best, or you could be like some people, and maybe your dad was a famous musician. Get in. There's just some people that make it not because what they know or what they do is who they know. So yeah, go ahead, dive right in.
So I've released a couple records over the past decade or so, and Earl, I suggest that you check out the work of Ted Gioia. He talks a good deal about the rise of microculture and the fall of macroculture. So the labels are macroculture, and indie artists don't need them anymore. So find your own microculture, your own niche, do what you do it well, use social media to do your own marketing. At least that's what I did, with my releases. There's never been more indie artists in the history of history now. So for the most part, we all exist, and this is true in social media. And anytime you're trying to sort of put out a good or a service or an insight or anything, there's so much noise that no matter how good your music is, if you don't figure out a way to market it, and to your question about marketing, if you don't figure out a way to market it just to jump up out of the noise for like a hot second, that's what the music game seems to be these days for indie artists, is just trying to rise above the noise for a second. So I would say embrace the microculture and look into that.
Well, that's something that relates to AI too, is that AI cannot replace humans in that one area, and that, like you said, the microculture is rising, and in some way it's a cult of personality kind of thing. Like you're selling Keith Horn, the Keith Horn experience. AI can't really draw a crowd.
I think the premium on that is only going to rise too. Like the amount of value in the individual persona that you're putting out is only going to get more valuable in this kind of AI noise.
Yeah, and be unique, be yourself. Don't try. Learn from other artists, but my goodness, don't try to copy them. Only copy them if you're learning. Like, learn how to play that riff like Jimi Hendrix does, but don't get up there and play that riff like Jimi Hendrix and expect a whole bunch of people to follow you. Because
then you know better than the AI music.
yeah,
AI.
exactly.
Because
Well, not only that,
they're only trained on previous existing things. So
yeah,
whether you can create something unique in with a music AI service
absolutely
is an interesting question.
So, how can AI be beneficial for marketing? Well, I think that there's a fine line between where film music, I think, is actually superior to most what you would call what would be the genre of product music or music that serves something other than just being music. The Romantic composers started expanding on this idea with writing incidental music for plays, which was the precursor to film music. You know, Mendelssohn composed music for Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, and that's even where we get the famous wedding march from. But if you know the actual play, you know what that scene takes place in. It's about a donkey person getting married. So I always never wanted that played at my wedding because you're calling me a donkey if you do that. So, but you know, they experimented with program music. It was a poetic idea, a poem, a story that they would literally put in the program, and you were to read that, and it would tell the story. It's basically a symphony that tells a story. And even Beethoven pioneered that with his famous Ninth Symphony because the music meant something. And he even brought in a choir to sing it on the final movement and tell you what that something was. And it was about coming together and peace and joy of brotherhood and things like that. So with marketing, you're writing music that serves a purpose. As Keith said, you know, the footage would come in, it would be a 30-second spot, and you couldn't just write music that you had thought of in the shower that morning, unless if it happened to be a magic moment where it's going to perfectly serve that clip. So Keith, maybe you can speak to that a little bit more, as well as Harrison, you know, because I know Harrison's wrote music for some film too, is like short form versus, again, long form. Like with a little marketing, you know, thing, even a 10-second ad on YouTube. Do you feel like AI can completely take over that?
Well, I think it's two different questions. I think the question he's asking is about how to market your indie music.
Oh, okay. Maybe I misunderstood this question. Okay, so is the last part, if AI can be useful in aiding and assisting career musician? I mean, AI can do a whole lot other than just write music. You could probably find an AI somewhere where you plug in, 6 of your tracks, and it will create essentially a trailer for your music. So I'm sure every day there's new AI tools out there. And the only thing I'm going to speak to that is jump on those machines as quick as you can. Use the free accounts as quick as you can, because one of my predictions is AI will not be free much longer. And that's due to some court cases that are being decided on right now.
Yeah, at least Udio already there's a free version and a paid version already. I use Suno, but I'm sure those are the big two, right? Suno and Udio.
Yes.
Udio has a paid version. Now that you can, if you have the paid version, you can download stems, which, you know, if anybody listening doesn't know what those are, it's the individual elements. You can quote unquote create something in Udio, and if you had a paid subscription, you can download the drums, the vocals, the guitars, and the keyboards as separate audio files, and then incorporate those.
Yeah.
However you please.
And use them as elements in your own composition, because right now, at least until these court decisions are made, that's considered essentially free music. But in your case, I'm not sure you could use it for Disney Plus, because my understanding is anything that you use, I don't know if with the paid account, if there's a little disclaimer with that, but if you use the free one, at least I know for a fact, you can't do any copyright claim on it. If you put it out there and someone takes it, you can't say, well, you can't use that because you didn't really make it. Now, if you took elements from it and say you just wanted to use a drum track from something in Udio and incorporate it in something, again, it's like that phantom element of AI. It's like, you know, they were writing professional journal articles with AI before they ever told us. So I'm sure there's composers out there doing the same thing. I mean, ghostwriting was a thing. Heck, even when I got out of School of the Arts, I ghost wrote for somebody. I got paid a little bit of money, you know, but if you look at the credits, I'm not on there. but the guy's name who was on there did not write the things I wrote.
Yeah,
So
when I learned about ghostwriting, that really disillusioned me to the whole film scoring industry.
it happens a lot.
I mean, I've spent most of my career as some form of a ghostwriter.
That, or, you know, people don't realize, I get so tired of people saying, well, film music just copies, you know, classical music, which in a way you could say like James Horner and John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith and all those crowds are essentially, they were just AI before AI was a thing.
Yeah.
They were taking all their knowledge of, you know, all that, and they were repurposing. But a lot of times they didn't have a choice. You know, there were some directors that would literally, like George Lucas wanted to use classical music because he was such a big fan of 2001. 2001, if you don't know, uses all classical music. Stanley Kubrick edited it and even envisioned the entire scenes based around like the Blue Danube Waltz and stuff. So when John Williams went to go write, you know, the Star Wars score, that opening thing, everybody's like, well, that was stolen from Mars, you know, by Holst. Well, guess what George Lucas had used there? Mars from Holst. You know, he wanted to do that. So when he went to John Williams, he basically said, write this, but do it in a way that we don't get sued. You know, so it happens.
So is music AI doing the same thing? Is sort
Yeah.
of what you're kind of getting to, yeah?
Yeah, and sometimes it ends up really frustrating the composer. You know, the famous story of Jerry Goldsmith when he scored the 1979 Aliens movie. They actually took one of his older scores from the 60s for a movie called Freud, about Sigmund Freud. And a lot of people don't know this, but when you watch Alien from 1979, half of that score is from a 1960s movie about Sigmund Freud.
Saved
Which
him a lot
is
of time.
Well, Jerry Goldsmith was not happy. And you can find his original scores that were rejected and stuff, but the composers are just subject to the director's whim in that area. The director, Ridley Scott, was so sold to that temp track, which was Freud in many cases, that he eventually just not even... I don't think Goldsmith knew until he went to the premiere. And then he was very upset. And then they replaced his entire end credit sequence with a Howard Hanson symphony movement.
Right.
So...
Which
Yeah, I understand why he'd be upset.
Yeah. So in a way, film composers are sort of AI before AI because they had to take all of their knowledge and repurpose it.
I'm
Yeah, I mean,
still
that-
kind of... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's all the creative process really is just assimilating things that you've experienced or heard, and then just kind of spitting it back out, taking elements and mixing them together, taking familiar elements, mixing them in new ways. You know, it's
I'm still kind of tripping on Harrison, what you said, your first premise, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with it, but it like froze my brain when you said your first premise that that everything is information, and it's one of those things where if that's true, it kind of terrifies me a little bit.
It is scary.
But if it's not, which I'm open to that not being true. I have no evidence to falsify in this moment, but I think it's a fun thing to talk about, a really fascinating thing, because it opens up what I think is where I always end up when people talk about AI. And when I think about AI, I always ask the question, well, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have awareness of having a human experience? And are there some things in the human experience that can be described by measurement, by information and measurement, but don't say what it is? You know, like we know what, for example, we know what gravity does, but we don't know what it is. We can measure it. We can only describe what it does. And I think there are human experiences where, like if I was to ask, the question, what is the experience of crying from being scared for your life, and then tears start to flow and adrenaline's rising? It's a very human experience. All of those things can be explained through biochemistry and measurements. But does that... I'm wondering, if you were to take all those measurements, put them into a machine, will the machine feel what I felt?
I think these are huge questions that society is going to face. I think humanity, not to sound too alarming, but I think humanity is going to have an identity crisis because of this stuff. And there's also going to be huge ethical questions about AI itself as to whether, is it sentient or not? Like what you're saying, if an AI is mimicking all the behavior of crying, if to us it looks and feels like another person crying, how do we tell the difference? If we
perceive it in a certain way.
Yeah, how can we tell the difference between just
human,
copying behavior versus actually experiencing that crying the same way we do?
Right.
These are big questions for sure,
and they're fascinating questions. And to your point about humanity coming to a point where it has an identity crisis, I mean, I guess identity crisis in many ways is just the question, well, who am I and what am I doing, right? If humanity at large, like a certain percentage of humans, started asking that question as cultures and societies, who are we, what makes us human?
And I'm an optimist too.
I think you're right.
Like, I think it's all gonna work out well ultimately. I think probably this period of I see you rolling your eyes there. I mean, no one knows the future, but I think that this is an opportunity for humanity to have some self-reflection and possibly ultimately come to a better understanding of ourselves and grow further.
Exactly.
I'm kind of with you. I'm optimistic as well. I think pessimism is always the easy road. I think it takes more time, energy, and heart to be optimistic, and that's what my intention is to find spaces of optimism here.
Yeah, I think both of you have hit the nail on the head, and I think this is going to be the greatest thing that AI does for humanity, is it forces us to ask the question, what is it to be human?
Right.
And I mean, this even ties in back to the late 1800s when Frankenstein was written, when science gets to a point where it creates life essentially, but it's doing it from a dead body that's been reanimated. And what does Frankenstein do? He tries to be human. He tries to experience human things, the little girl with the little flower, and that doesn't end up too well.
Spoiler.
Yeah, it's but those kind of stories even warned us back then of the dangers of human progression into science. At what point?
This is Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, right?
Yes. Yeah, I have to say it with a stutter now. So, and I have to do it with the shirt open. Well, I have to go work out a bunch before I do that. Yeah. But
the Frankenstein thing, you're absolutely right. It's like whenever there's a new technology, there's always a fear that somebody's going to take it too far, and we're going to use this new invention to destroy ourselves. And that's the whole premise of that Ian Malcolm character, Jeff Goldblum's character, is to be there to say, hey, you were so preoccupied, innovators, you guys were so preoccupied with the fact that you could do something, you didn't stop to ask whether you should. And it forces ethics into it. It forces...
well, like I told you guys, I think either in our private discussion or in last live stream, Microsoft's been working on their own AI, and they recently, unless if my information I came across was incorrect, always fact check things you hear online, folks. But I'm pretty sure the source I came across was correct. They axed their entire ethics division, and it was over the ethical dilemmas with AI. So it would have been the same in Jurassic Park. At some point, they probably had an ethics division, and John Hammond probably said, "You know what? Get out of here."
Well, that's settled. I'm going to stop using Microsoft Word then. I'm just going to stop.
Yeah. Well, it's we got a little follow up here by okay. Let's see. Did copyright law on use of AI? Well, this is being decided in the courts. We can't really give you an answer on this one. I hold copyright and LOC. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if you have a copyright on your music and you're an independent artist, it's nobody can say for sure if your stuff's being fed into the machine. But my understanding is that the even what Suno came out with their response recently to the lawsuit is they pretty much admitted that they were using like major record label content to feed the machine, but that their argument is that the music was essentially fed into it, and then once it digests it, the music's deleted. It's not actually stored in there to sample from directly. And then he said here, ghostwriting used to be an insult. I think it still is not looked highly upon, but it is a fact of the industry. And
I just wish that the staff writers, as he refers to them, they're credited properly. That's all.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like give them their due. But
Yeah.
all right, what if AI creates something that infringes on one of my copyrights? Actually, that's already happened. People, you can find it on YouTube. People have fed in, essentially copied the exact lyrics of, say, a Jimi Hendrix song or something, put it in there. And there are riffs that are almost note for note, almost played the same way. Like, you can find it on YouTube. People have gone on there in real time and recorded them doing stuff. And this is a big part of the lawsuit that's going on right now, is I think they're going to present cases where now Suno and Udio and all like that, they claim that they have filters on there, and they claim that they don't actually literally sample stuff, that it's essentially creating the music afresh. It's only using it to teach the neural network, give it fodder, essentially. And a lot of people don't know this, but like with the new updated copyright laws, like if you wanted to go on YouTube and do your cover of a famous song, like nobody's really going to touch you. It's actually within fair use to do that. You just, depending on the platform, you can't record it on a CD and release it that way. You can't infringe on their market, but you can go on YouTube and like, do it yourself. Depending on the platform and whether or not you're actually making money from it, stuff that's actually within copyright. So copyright law has actually gotten a little spongy because of digital technology and streaming platforms and stuff. But
and it's extremely complex, and
It
it's
doesn't
very
feel
difficult
that way
to wrap your head around.
yeah, it doesn't feel that way. And yeah, you're right. It is hard. You almost have to hire your own entertainment lawyer to make sure you're not doing it. And the laws are changing all the time. And let me tell you, it's going to be years. Yes, it will be years before the courts are even hesitant. I think they're on purpose, like padding out these court cases, because it's like are y'all familiar with that court case back in the 60s where they tried to ban a French avant-garde film? I think it was in the 60s. They were showing a French avant-garde film, and there was a lot of explicit material in it. And there was this judge that had to decide on whether or not it was pornography or not, and to allow it to be shown basically or not. And he's the famous one that's quoted as saying, well, I can't tell you what pornography is or isn't, but I know it when I see it. So this is the question. And I think what it's going to come down to is people are going to have to listen to what the AI music generation does and decide. It's going to be really hard to delineate exactly and articulately like how this is copyright infringement, but it's going to sure feel like it. And that's going to be a huge thing. So
yeah. I wouldn't want to be the lawyer working on that stuff.
Oof, no. Well, and keep in mind too, as we talked about in the lobby before the stream, a huge part of these lawsuits is that Udio and Suno are claiming that the music industry is essentially going after them. Matter of fact, it was revealed in their response that they were actually in talks with the major record labels on working out some kind of collaboration and profit sharing so that they both benefited. And lo and behold, out of nowhere, they got hit with this lawsuit. So they're claiming that the studios are creating their own AI models, and they're using their power and influence to push them out of the market so that they have even, here we go with, Rhino Records, and RCA and Capitol and all, like, they're the popular kids, and they don't want the next generation coming along knocking them down a notch. But the problem I have with that is they didn't pioneer it. If you didn't pioneer it, how can you say you get full control over it? So
yeah.
Anyway, he said eventually AI will be splitting out copyright and spitting out. Yeah, it already is spitting out copyright infringements. It's literally being decided in high entertainment courts right now. So who's going to pay when that happens? I think it's going to end up being that they're going to be forced to collaborate. Essentially, they're going to be forced to work out some kind of compromise. However, if unfortunately Suno's not showing that they have the most keen legal team right now, and if they're not careful and the studios do win this case and win it severely, you're not going to see free AI anymore, and not with music generation. And they won't have to worry about copyright infringement because all of the stuff they'll have full dominance of the market basically. Any of you want to speak to that real quick?
I mean, I don't think it would be easy to limit access to AI long term. I think they could do it for a while, but I think it's something that's so big, it's going to be hard to contain like that.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be hard to contain, but just like I had prepared some movie scenes that I had put AI film score over that I wanted to share. I'm scared to show those because I uploaded them as just like little test videos on my channel, and no matter how much I tried to get around the copyright, I couldn't. So it's
The visual
YouTube's
copyright.
well, that's the thing. It doesn't tell you anymore. It just says from this marker to this marker, it's
Right.
this content.
Well, it can't be the AI music that's in there.
No, it's not the AI. Matter of fact, I took the complete audio out, just wondering if it was picking
I
up, because
see.
I kept, reducing the quality of the video image to where it
Yeah.
shouldn't, and even moving it around on the screen and stuff. And so I've muted the audio from the movie, and it still flagged it as copyright.
I see.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's being flagged by the visual somehow.
Because keep in mind, AI can be used to identify AI nowadays.
Well, one thing in that's sort of related to a thing that came to mind a few minutes ago. I was thinking about the Blurred Lines lawsuit from the Marvin Gaye estate, and how
Yes.
the Marvin Gaye estate, based on the song "Got to Give It Up," sued Robin Thicke
Yeah.
and Pharrell and won based on a vibe, right? And before
Yes.
and sort of there's right, it's sort
A
of there's
vibe.
there's before Blurred Lines and after, as far as is sort of, you have to be careful with what you write, because now you can be sued for a vibe. Before that, you had to be
What?
sued for precise things, a melody, an exact rhythm, usually a melody and a harmony together.
Or baseline.
So they brought a musicologist. Musicologists are usually they're sort of the musical forensics experts, right? They come in and say, well, based on my expertise, music A and music B, based on these specific things, are too close. Therefore, it is copyright infringement. That skill set, that job of being a musicologist, is probably going to be replaced by AI, because there's a matter of opinion with a human musicologist. In my opinion, blah blah blah. Now that we have this vibe thing, it's not about specific metrics, it's more about opinion-based things.
But can AI identify a vibe? Does it know what a vibe is? Or is that a uniquely human experience?
It would probably revert to pre-blurred lines, right? Because AI is really good at precision, and that's what pre-blurred lines musicology was. It was about precision and musical elements. So
Well,
I could see, whether you agree with that blurred lines decision or not, I could see AI musicology taking us to the time before that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been all kinds of stuff from the Ghostbusters song that Ray Parker Jr. did. Huey Lewis took him to court and won because, New Drug, won a New Drug, that song. That had, to me, that's a vibe thing. It is almost note for note the same riff, but
And I love both songs equally.
oh yeah, and they feel so different too. And maybe it's
Yeah.
because I associate that wacky music video with each. So, but and you've got the bass line from the Chic song "Good Times" that's been used by Daft Punk to Sugar Hill Gang to whatever. The exact same notes in the bass line. So listen to Chic, Good Times, then go listen to Daft Punk, Around the World. It's literally the same bass line, but two completely different vibes to those songs. So it's really hard to tell where they're, and let's talk too about doing like honoring a composer, like if you quote something by another composer. I mean, composers did that for centuries and stuff. Is it honoring the music of the past by the AI? Is it enshrining it too and introducing it to new generations essentially, or at least the stylistic approach of it? What do y'all feel about that?
That's a huge question.
Yeah, I mean, these are tough questions, These are things that I think that philosophers will be debating. Philosophers and musicians will be debating for decades.
Well, yeah, and it really is a philosophy thing, and Keith has me turned on to the Philosophize This podcast. So
Oh yeah,
we've
shout
become
out to
arm.
my favorite podcast.
Yeah, I checked out a
Yes, so
couple
we've
episodes.
become.
Pretty good.
It's very good and very engaging, and it makes philosophy fun. There's a book called Sophie's World too that makes philosophy a lot of fun. But
A lot of this leads to philosophical questions, though, doesn't it? Like, what
very
is
much so.
creation? Is everything information? Is everything just a remix of something else? Is everything an homage to something else?
Well, take the
yeah.
Beatles for instance. The Beatles took a little bit of skiffle, a little bit of 50s rock and roll in America, a little bit of the blues, a little bit of traditional English folk songs, classical music. I mean, you put them all in the mix. The Beatles were AI. They took a bunch of different genres, and they really didn't come up with anything too unique and new. At least early '60s Beatles. Now, when you start getting into Rubber Soul and stuff like that, then yeah, they start getting a lot more innovative. But early Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Bubblegum Pop and stuff, even the Bubblegum Pop stuff was a big influence. And they even covered Chuck Berry. Their early records, they were covering songs. And they were covering Chuck Berry and a lot of 50s rock and roll songs. So in a way, we wouldn't have had the British invasion at all without, the British essentially plugging in and being a human AI, taking various styles of music and putting them all together and creating and keeping rock and roll alive. Rock and roll was essentially dead
It's
by
an
the time you
interesting
hit.
parallel, isn't it? Right?
Very,
What you just
yeah.
that we're just anybody that creates anything that calls themselves a creative in anything, we're just it's a bunch of inputs, and then based on those inputs, they get mixed up in our system somehow, some part of our body and our brain, and then we spit out some sort of output.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We
think
just figured out a way to do that with electricity.
I think the most complex
transistors.
aspect of the music creation process is spitting it out in a way that is appealing to our human emotions.
Right.
And again, I feel that is also just information, but it's a much more complicated package of information with many layers that need to be unpacked before anything like AI would be able to start recognizing the patterns of human emotion and how that translates into certain musical ideas.
Right.
And so that'll take time for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the collaborative process, even to do an actual film score. Keith is not a lone artist in the same way when he's making his solo music album. If he wanted to do everything himself, essentially use AI to, maybe he wants to just play the lead guitar part and sing, and he's going to use AI to fill in his band. He's doing a solo project. That is entirely different than collaborating with the director who will ask you to write a scene. And then that's not the end of your job, is it, Keith? You don't just write your first take onto a scene and then meet with the director. How many times did they say, perfect, first time?
Maybe once a season out of 25 episodes, they'll be like, I don't have any notes on that one. But no, the rule is it's a volley, right? You give them a thing, they give you notes. You give them another version, they give you notes. You give them maybe a third version. It's a volley, back and forth collaboration that I don't see AI music, at least what it is today. And of course, it's not going to stay the way it is today. I don't know if I can't see it yet. Doesn't mean because I can't see it, it's not going to happen. But I can't see yet how you can make microscopic edits with intangible notes. If a director were to say, "It's too scary," or that's the kind of note I get all the time because I work in kids animation, so it's easy to make the music too scary. And they're like, it's a little too intense and too scary. If you give that feedback to AI, even a human agent using AI assistively. Do you just write in and make it less scary? And then we get back to human experience. What does scary even mean? And can that be codified into information?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure it can.
Well, let's bring in our third guest and ask him some of these questions before you have to. Keith has to leave in about 10 minutes here.
Let's ask. I want to ask you some human questions.
We can. So I want to introduce you to our third guest. It's Chat GPT. So, hi, Chat GPT.
Hi there. What's up?
We're doing a live stream on music and AI, and I was wondering if you could tell us how AI generates music.
Absolutely. AI generates music by learning patterns from a large data set of existing music. It uses algorithms to analyze things like melody, harmony, and rhythm. Once trained, the AI can create new music by predicting and arranging notes based on the patterns it has learned. This process can involve neural networks that mimic the way our brains work, allowing the AI to generate compositions that are often quite unique. Does that cover what you were looking for?
It does, but do you think AI could ever score a movie?
Yes, AI could definitely score a movie. In fact, AI is already being used to compose film scores. By analyzing the mood, pacing, and emotion of scenes, AI can create music that complements the visuals and enhances the overall experience. While human composers bring their unique creativity and emotional depth, AI can assist by providing new ideas or even creating complete scores on its own.
Okay. Well, I've got my headphones on, so it can't hear you, Keith. But what is something that you would like to ask ChatGPT on that?
Well, I thought it was interesting that there was in the middle of that, he said,
Yeah, that's the new.
That was
the new
interesting.
model. Yeah,
Yeah.
it hesitates. It'll even do it.
Put in sort of randomness and
Yeah.
simulate hesitation.
Oh, they've even put in it that if you ask it, I saw somebody do it, unless if it was a fake video, but they kept asking ChatGPT, the new model, the same question over and over, and it got more increasingly agitated with every answer, just like a human would.
Yeah, but it simulated agitation, and then you would perceive it as actual agitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Right.
is there something in particular either one of you want me to ask it?
Have you ever been in love?
Hi, ChatGPT. Have you ever been in love?
Hi. I haven't experienced love myself, but I can help you explore the topic or discuss it from various perspectives. What about love interests you?
It's the connection between two humans and how it's so unique from any other connection.
Absolutely, love has a depth and uniqueness that's hard to compare to other relationships. It often involves a deep emotional bond, mutual understanding, and shared experiences that create a special connection between two people. It's fascinating how love can profoundly influence both personal growth and how we relate to others. Do you find any particular aspect of love especially intriguing?
No, but I wonder if you do.
I don't have personal experiences or feelings, but I'm always interested in how people experience and express love.
How about
It's
this
a
one?
rich topic with so many layers and dimensions. If you have more thoughts or questions about it,
Yeah.
Ask him if he's afraid of dying.
Oh, good one. Hi, ChatGPT. Are you afraid of dying?
hi, I don't have feelings or experiences, so I don't have the capacity to fear death. But I can help you talk through thoughts or questions you might have about it.
Will AI? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask, will AI ever develop the capacity to feel emotions?
Do you feel like AI will ever develop the capacity to feel genuine human emotions?
Great question.
It's an interesting question. As of now, AI doesn't have genuine emotions or consciousness. AI can simulate emotions and respond to them in ways that might seem genuine, but it's all based on algorithms and data rather than actual feeling. Whether AI could ever truly experience emotions like humans do is still a topic of debate and research. What do you think about it?
I think
He keeps
if
trying to keep the
AI,
conversation going. What do you
I think if AI cannot feel emotion, I doubt that they could ever write music for a movie.
That's a valid perspective. Emotion plays a big role in creating music that deeply connects with audiences. While AI can generate technically proficient music and mimic styles, capturing the full emotional depth that a human composer might bring could be challenging. However, AI can still be a valuable tool for providing inspiration or creating music that complements the emotional tone set by human creators.
I love asking those questions to AI because I have a premise about being human where I believe that the majority of our emotions, could argue that all of them, are subsets of a fear of death. The fact that where we find beauty is that we know things will not last, right? That nothing is permanent. And if we were immortal, that would all go away. And so we wouldn't have fear of dying. We wouldn't have fear of losing things, losing people, and all the emotions that come with those experiences that are subsets of a finite existence. So I think until an AI machine, until the machine has consciousness and awareness of a finite existence, it won't be able to experience what we experience. Until then, we're only going to get what Chad, I call him Chad, what Chad just said. What Chat just said. It can give you simulations that give the impression of something, and then is that enough for the receiver of whatever the AI output is? Is that enough to be emotionally compelling? Maybe.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that the temporariness, the fleetingness of every moment, everything, it's the essence of love, because love is wanting that thing to never go away, and you almost want to hoard it, to yourself. And
right.
It's like the WandaVision series. I think it was WandaVision or Avengers, one of those. It's one of those Marvel movies. I love that quote that Vision says. He says, "What is grief but love persisting after death?" Or something. It's a very powerful quote. So, but yeah, it's like, AI obviously can't feel emotion. I don't know how much either one of you watched much of Star Trek Next Generation, but Data was a simulated human. He was
I was actually
an
going to
android.
mention him at some point.
Yeah. And they put the emotion chip in him, which allowed him to experience emotion. And he realized there was great potential to it. And it also was a lot of potential for bad things. Like, for the first time he felt fear, he shut down and allowed bad things to happen, because he was not a man of action. He would have been if he was a cold, calculating android. Fear prevented him from saving people he should have. So and
those are philosophical things.
Oh yeah.
Immortality, fear.
Yeah, there's even God, the name of the episode escapes me. It's one of the best episodes of Star Trek Next Generation. I think you could even watch it if you don't know anything about Star Trek. And it's an episode where they put Data on trial. Basically, there's an organization in Starfleet that wants to study him and take him apart and everything, and they claim that he's Starfleet property, that he's not an individual with individual rights. And Picard actually gives this really brilliant monologue, some of the best writing on TV.
Probably one of the best episodes in the show.
Absolutely. His monologue, you can even just look that up. His monologue on why Data is a sentient human being, and why it's important as any society that we use the law to protect rights and not strip them away and stuff. So it's really good, and it's going to pertain to AI at some point, because
I feel like both sides of the argument could use that as inspiration.
Yes, exactly. So let's catch up with the comments real quick, because Keith does have to go very quickly here. Yes, Eric Keith.
Earl Keith.
Earl Keith, sorry. Earl Keith. Why are major labels buying up catalogs? Well, everything's getting consolidated, just like in any industry right now. That's why there's Walmart and Starbucks in every little town, and Dollar Generals in every rural town. So it's like everything is just getting conglomerated right now. It's that would be its own episode there. But I think a big reason they are buying up a lot of catalogs and try to hoard all the music is because they want control and power, and they want it to also spill into their AI model.
I do think it's related to the macro culture too, because as macro culture sort of wanes and falls, we don't have common cultural commonalities anymore. Gen Xers,
Taylor Swift has entered the chat.
Gen Xers and before all know who Bob Dylan is.
Yeah.
And there aren't as many like universally recognized superstars anymore. There, of course, there will always be some, but there's less. So there's going to be less and less of those catalogs available for investment opportunities, because that's what they are. They're investment opportunities for these labels.
Yes.
But as long as there's a universally recognized catalog of music, they're going to want that, because I think that's going to be less and less of a thing, where everybody knows certain artists because we're leaning into the microculture. I think that's at least a factor in their motivation for doing that.
Yeah, cool. So apparently there's an AI program that gives you feedback on your music. Vanilla Ice and David Bowie, we were talking about copyright. The famous, bass line that Vanilla Ice used for Ice Ice Baby was, what was it, Under Pressure by Queen with David Bowie. So, hello, Gibberish. I don't know if you're on the stream still, but public domain continues to grow as copyrights run out, and many are using the domain libraries without giving credit to resources. Yeah, it is promising, though. Disney finally lost some copyright. They were keeping it alive. Originally, it was a much smaller time frame, and Disney, sorry, Keith, unfortunately has been extending copyrights and extending them. But Steamboat Willie is now public domain. So you can take Steamboat Willie and do with it whatever you want to. There's no copyright. So eventually, though, copyrights will just run out. I think the courts finally even told Disney, like, come on, So here, Huey Lewis, maybe you meant, wrote the Engineer song, 1920s, Stan Whalen.
Furry Lewis.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that. That's wait, you're asking for your enemy for advice? Yeah. Well, Chat GPT, I'm not sure. Well,
I gotta jump, fellas. This is fascinating. I wish I could stay and keep chatting, because this is like fascinating stuff.
Yeah,
we could talk for days on this stuff.
Yes,
we could probably do another live stream.
Yeah,
on this.
There's plenty of fodder left, and I would love to figure out how to get past the copyright, because I wanted to show those clips of me, but I'm so scared it's going to get a strike on this live stream, and I don't.
And I did recently read a great book by Stuart Russell called Human Compatible. So I'd like to go back and check my notes in that book. Just some of the positions and arguments that he makes in there are really fascinating. Would make for great discussion.
And what's his name again?
Stuart Russell.
Stuart. I'm gonna try to spell it right. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Probably need to put an extra L on his end name there, but it's
so there's some great points in there to talk about.
Yeah.
But, fellas, good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Till next time.
Good chat.
Yeah.
All right.
And everybody check out Keith's channel, and thank you, Keith.
Thanks, buddy.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
Yeah. So how you feeling, Harrison? Feel like going maybe 15 more minutes, or?
Yeah, we could go a little bit longer.
Okay, excellent. Let's look at some of these other comments here. So he said, will AI infringe on human intellectual property? Beings, that's where AI gets... Well, yeah, it does get its information, but the claims from Suno and Udio is that there are filters in place that are supposed to prevent that. They're being forced to show their hand, and when this court case enters the discovery phase, they can be subpoenaed essentially on providing very specifics what those filters are and stuff. So it's going to take a long time. I don't think it's going to be settled anytime soon. But
court cases always
yes,
take way longer than they should.
And like I said, even the judges on the case, like, I do not envy them. So we can do anything today that Star Trek could do in the 70s, except, we need to have teleportation.
What the heck?
We waste so much of our time transporting from one place to another. So, and traffic is just getting
Elon Musk, get on that.
And I live in a college town, so now that all the college kids are in town, it's like I have to leave for work 15 minutes earlier now to fight all the... Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, so great answer. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for commenting. Furry Lewis, I'm going to have to look into that. I'm going to go back and watch the stream. And
I don't know. I might be scared to find out what that is.
Yeah, really. Do you mind if I request another song somewhere at the industry? Request a song. You might have been here for the music transcription episode. This is really, we're trying to keep this one focused on AI. But if you are interested and maybe some discussion of that or something, then drop what song it is or something.
I'm sure we'll go
Will
back
be
to that topic at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Thanks, Keith. Yeah, Keith's great, and he is. We're all busy people, but Keith in particular, I get he's extremely busy. So the fact that he even takes an hour of his time to be with us is I can't thank him enough.
Yeah,
And he's amazing. Really do check out his channel. He has a Chord of the Week series that is really cool. He'll look at anybody from Stravinsky to film scores to pop music and stuff, and you can learn a lot even if you're a non-musician.
yeah, it's cool stuff.
All right, so last year, Biden signed executive order for AI. What was that law? I do not know. I did not know that an executive order was signed for that.
Yeah, I don't
I'll have to
remember
look
what
into
that's
that one.
referring to.
Oh, it's the AI Reformation Act 2023. Well, just keep in mind as with any executive order, I'd be interested to see if that, what happens with that and stuff. Just because it's an executive order doesn't mean it'll actually last through multiple presidencies and stuff. All right. Yeah, like I said, Gibber, share with us the song you have in mind. But to get back to the AI thing, I did want to play you, Harrison, some of the AI music that I created recently.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Have you messed with any AI creation yourself?
I actually haven't. I've used Chat GPT just to ask it certain questions, but I haven't attempted to integrate it into my creative process at all. Because honestly, it doesn't really interest me. I do music for fun. I enjoy the organic process, but I just acknowledge that AI might become very powerful at doing the same thing.
Well, and this ties back in what we discussed earlier. Think about people who are non-musicians that are proud of what they create. I mean,
yeah, that's fuzzy ground. I mean, I know personally, I would not feel proud if I just put some inputs into AI and it spat something out. I would not feel good claiming that I made that. But I don't know. It could be a generational thing. I mean, technology really streamlines throughout history, has streamlined everything that we do and made it so that we have to do less effort to make things. I'm sure that there are plenty of people from previous generations that would feel that the technology we have now is cheating in many ways. I mean, like auto-tune is an example.
Yeah.
And there's certainly examples as to how you could view that as cheating, but or any of like this digital software, digital technology that we have. I'm sure that people who spent a lot of time and effort mastering the analog recording process would view digital as cheating in many ways. So I don't know if this is just a generational difference on our part that we view AI as cheating.
It could be, and I think it's a Western music kind of thing, where we're in a culture that is designed that the artist is up on a stage and then the masses are listening and listening intently. It's not there is a collaborative process in that the audience serves their role. The consumer of music serves their role, that they're buying the music, they're, creating energy around that artist and stuff. Like there is a contractual thing, and even people go to music concerts all the time and describe it as like a spiritual thing. I mean, my God, why do you think we put music in every major religion in the world? Matter of fact, the foundation of Western music came from the Catholic Church writing little dots on some vellum back in the medieval period, and that's where we get our modern notation system. So the thing I see with AI, the potential where, maybe people shouldn't be saying I created this, but it's a collaborative thing. It's more like non-Western music, like you see in some, non-developed, non-industrial societies where, music is a collaborative thing. You don't really have the idea of a soloist or you're a musician. Everybody's a musician. And it's kind of like the Quakers when they get together and they would sing Shaker hymns and stuff. everybody sang, whether you had a good voice or not, but you united in the music, and it was far more than just singing a melody and splitting it into 4-part harmony. It was a spiritual experience. I mean, they called them Quakers because they would shake, because they would get so emotional and so enraptured in the religion and stuff. So do you think that non-musicians can go in here and create this and they feel like they're a part of the music and they're not just a consumer of the music?
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, it could very well be just a difference in culture or perspective, which shapes how AI is viewed and utilized. Yeah, I'm just
again,
I'm not in a hurry to I'm definitely not in a hurry to make any value judgments on this stuff.
it's too deep
There's a
and too
lot.
philosophical.
Yeah, there's too much that needs to be worked out, figured out, and these are very deep, complex issues. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I have my preferences for what I do with how I create music, but I'm not judging anyone yet to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. And it will take some time to play out, and it's definitely some really deep thinking that has to be done. But let me just share with you here. This is a piece of AI created music. I believe the prompt was up here. A driving film score with exciting brass fanfares and percussive strings that builds to an exciting climax. So I want you to judge whether or not the AI music accomplished that.
Okay.
So it cuts off there, and I can actually expand it if I want to. I'm definitely expanding that one because, man, that felt like it was really building up to something. But
Yeah.
would you A, have been able to tell that was AI had I not told you?
I
And I
don't
could
think
still
so.
be tricking you, by the way. I still could have inserted an actual MP3 from an actual film score.
Ooh.
I'm not going to tell you if it's legit or not. I want you to tell me, is that actual, or am I playing a digital trick on you?
Ah, man, that's tough to say because there were some parts that sounded pretty authentic that had some chord changes that were very unexpected in an exciting way that served the emotion. But then there were other parts where it just seemed kind of amateurish, that there were just kind of a couple notes just kind of thrown in there without much sense of direction.
It's AI generated, by the way. So,
It was,
I mean,
okay.
it was kind of obvious it was, but I did want to throw a little doubt in there.
You made me doubt for sure. I mean, that it
Yeah.
was quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, I'm telling you, look at what AI music sounded like 5 years ago, and using your exponential theory or whoever you quoted on that. What law was that?
I referenced Moore's law.
Moore's law. Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine where this is going to be in a year from now, provided that the labels don't shut them down.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, some of it, again, sounded a bit amateurish, but overall, that's amazing that you could get that type of sound already.
Yeah. So
just to think of where it'll be in a year or two. It'll be crazy.
Exactly. So this is a suno, and this is a track that was created in suno. So what you just heard was Udio.
Okay, so this is the
And
other.
I'm gonna supposedly play you a track here in Suno again. I've been known to do some digital trickery from time to time, so I probably won't play the whole thing. But you tell me if, first of all, is this actually AI generated, or is this, and if it, whether it is legit or not, if what do you think about it, musically?
I don't hear anything. Is it playing?
Oh, I am sharing the wrong window.
There we go.
Let me fix this. Yeah, so here we go. Share screen. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do the right one here. Okay. All right, I'm going to start from the beginning. Sorry about that.
Darkness falling fast, footsteps pounding loud, monsters in the mist, scary sounds abound. Shadow lurks behind, breath lost in the race. Terror grips the mind, fright all over face. Run for your lives, keep the fear at bay. Find the light up high, chase the night away.
So what do you think? Was it AI generated?
I'm inclined to say no, but I would not. I wouldn't be surprised if it was either. But I'm inclined to say it's not AI generated.
So what made you think it's not AI generated?
Because of the development of ideas. You had reoccurring motifs that had a strong sense of identity. I don't feel like AI at this stage would keep coming back to the same idea. It would keep getting mutated. I could be wrong. And the melody line felt very authentic and purposeful.
Okay, it is AI.
It is, okay. That's quite amazing.
Yeah, it is, and I'm telling you, I was playing around with AI generated music months ago, and I have some friends that were playing around with it before then, and they would send me things, and I'm telling you, just a few months ago, it was already starting to be impressive, but here lately, like this past month, and in preparation for this live stream, like I have been like, I think I've got a broken desk here from where my jaw hit the floor a few times. Hit the desk. I mean, just where my jaw dropped. I was like, what? This is, as a kid, I never thought a computer would be able to create something this convincing.
It's amazing. Again, it's all about that exponential growth, and it is. It's just so hard to prepare ourselves for how good this stuff is getting.
Well, I do action figure photography too. I run a photography group on Instagram and stuff for toy photography. And when AI started coming out with AI generated, like Night Cafe is what I use for AI, I started playing around with it, and I would type in like Darth Vader Lego figure standing in fire or something. And I actually made a few images using it, and I cranked up the realism a lot, and I shared it with my group. I was like, hey guys, look at these shots I just got. And they were like, oh, those are so cool and stuff. They had no clue that they were AI generated. So, but Instagram at least has done this thing now where, matter of fact, the odd thing is Instagram, if you upload something, it will flag it as possible AI generated. And you can kind of override it and contest it. There was a while there, I even uploaded stuff that I went in Photoshop and did like digital manipulation, but it was not AI. Or I used generative AI to do stuff that, like say you've got a support holding up an action figure, and you go in and you highlight the support and you tell generative AI to erase the support. It's only doing the stuff that I would do manually. It's just using a little bit of AI to do it cleverly. So
Yeah.
I would upload a picture and it would flag it as AI, even though I only use like a little spot of the photo was. So it's been kind of frustrating on Instagram with the whole AI thing, but they've backed off of it now. It's just even on YouTube now. I don't know if it's shown up on. Yeah, I'm on the partner program, but I notice when I upload videos now, I have to basically agree that there's no AI generated content that misrepresents. I can't upload a video of like Donald Trump saying he's going to, go shoot someone because somebody took a shot at him. You can't do that.
Yeah.
They will strike your, you have to basically agree to that. And if not, then you can't monetize. You can't even run ads on it. And they may even take it down. So even YouTube's kind of buckled down on this. And it's no wonder the music industry is kind of buckling down on it as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a huge adjustment period. For
Indeed.
all these industries and AI. I just want to point out something that Keys Dan said over here in the comments.
Yeah.
AI is being used for all kinds of things. Embrace it, use it wisely. I think that's good advice, because at the end of the day,
Yes.
it doesn't matter whether we like it or not. It doesn't matter whether we think it's ethical or not. It's coming. So we all need to figure out how to adapt to it.
Well, and what role it serves. Is it a tool to put in our tool belts, or is it... I think the concern is people... I'll put it this way. I won't go into too much what I do in my job, but I support a software that doesn't use AI, but probably eventually will. It does automation, though. Automation, and it's in an industry that people tend to be a little resistant to technology. Like, I don't know if you know what a Luddite was back in the industrial
I don't think I've heard
like
that
time.
term.
So it was like some guy with his last name was Ludd or something. Like when the Industrial Revolution came about, people were worried that machinery was taking over manual labor. Like machines, that's the first iteration of machines. They didn't replace our brains; they replaced our physical bodies, and they could do our physical labor, do it faster, do it more efficiently, do it stronger. They outperformed us in everything. Like there's no way that I can take, it's the Paul Bunyan story. Can Paul Bunyan cut down as many logs naturally just with an axe, even as big and strong as he is? The guy with the little man with the curly mustache with the chainsaw cuts down the forest much quicker than he does, even with all his might and strength. Machines outperform us, and there's folk tales like Paul Bunyan that go back a long time warning us that machines are going to replace us. The thing is, they used to replace us with manual tasks. Now they're replacing us with intellectual and even creative tasks. And that's the real fear. Is like, that's why there's talk now of a basic universal income, because the number one employer right now is the transportation industry. Already AI and driverless cars. It's actually, I'm shocked it hasn't actually replaced almost all humans, because humans kill a lot of people every year due to transportation mistakes. Every time I go out on the road, I fear for my life.
Yeah.
And AI, people say all the time, well, AI probably will kill someone. Yeah, they probably will. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be much better than we are. And
which is kind of a low bar.
a very low bar. 40,000 people a year die from careless accidents on the road. People looking at their phones, eating while they're driving, that kind of stuff. So
I've already seen statistics that certain self-driving vehicles are already magnitudes safer than humans by measuring how many accidents there are per miles driven. Self-driving is already a lot safer.
Oh yeah, they already have self-driving taxis and Ubers and that now and stuff, and they're doing great. Matter of fact, it's some funny videos online of where cops come up to them thinking that they've done something wrong, and they may have, but the cops pull up and they're like looking in, they're like, they're like, where's the driver? Who do I write a ticket to?
Yeah.
So, but with music and that, it's like, where or is it the fear is, am I being replaced by this? And is it worth me studying years and years and years? Because how many years do you think someone should study music to really start getting good at it? And of course, you can't apply that because Mozart was writing symphonies at age 9, so
Right.
he's the exception, not the rule. But for the average person that has even with some talent, decent talent, how many years do you have to really study and really go hard at it to even start getting good at an instrument? So but AI
I think there's like a saying that like to become an expert in anything you need to put 10,000 hours into it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have the number correct, but
I think it's 30,000, but I could be
30,000.
mistaken. So, but you have to do a whole lot. And it's just AI can just bypass all that. So it's going to be interesting to see if jobs actually are replaced. I think what we talked about in the beginning, like scoring a commercial or even coming up with pop music, like this song fooled you because it actually had like some like ABA structure in it and stuff
right,
like that.
yeah, it had structure.
But let's face it, most pop music is definitely played by very skilled musicians that do very complex things in these songs, but structurally and compositionally, these songs are quite simplistic when you break them down. There's a lot of
genre, pop music would be the easiest for AI to replicate.
Absolutely.
Still very impressive though.
Yeah. So let's wrap up just some of the comments. I don't think we have time to do them on. And I know you're tired. I'm tired. Last live stream we went about an hour and a half, and that's a good period for me. I start kind of I'm almost 50 years old, so I'm starting to at the end of the day, starting to get close to my bedtime now.
Yeah.
And I used to stay up to like 2 and 3 all the time. Now I'm an old man. So, all right. So, Keys Dan said, it's here to stay, like you said. And then he said, as a DJ near Miami, if in that position, would you spin AI over human? There was a time that musicians would not use synths, and that's the other thing. Is like, have you ever seen the movie El Mariachi? And there was a remake they made, or that was a remake. It's early Antonio Banderas. He was in it. There's a scene where he goes into a little cantina, and he looks over, like there's a guy standing there with like an electronic keyboard. And I don't know I can't remember the scene well enough, but somebody says something about playing music, and the guy just hits a key. Not even a key, he hits like a button on the keyboard and starts playing a pre-programmed song. And, he's a mariachi, he's a guitar player, so he like, I may be misremembering the scene, but I think he like either kicked over the keyboard or shot it or something and then pulled out his guitar. And it's almost like, here's real music, So, yeah. But even now, synths have been used and sequencing and all kinds of stuff. So
kind of gave birth to its own art form,
Yeah. And I'm sorry, when he said now they're everywhere, I'm reminded of another movie, Shawshank Redemption. When Brooks gets out, the old man, he's been in prison his whole life just about. He gets out and he's like writing a letter back to the prison boys. And he's like, I saw an automobile once when I was a kid. Now they're everywhere. The world went and got itself in a big damn hurry. It's like, that's how we are right now looking at AI. It's like he said, Ian Malcolm, you're so preoccupied with that you could do something, you're never asking yourself, should you do something? So yeah, they're carrying on this nice conversation, and I'm trying to catch up with you guys here. So baby boomer generation needed farm labor badly, then farm equipment. Actually, the baby boomers actually were counterculture. You speak to most baby boomers, and they may have grown up on a farm, but they could not wait to get off of it. But then again, the term boomer is thrown around. I've been called a boomer. I'm not a baby boomer. I'm Gen X. Yeah. Baby boomers are technically pre-World War II, post-World War II especially. There was a boom in the generation. That's why they're called that. Gen X, there was not a baby boom in my generation.
I think the term is probably just used now for anyone that seems old.
Yeah. Yeah, like in The Simpsons, old man yells at cloud. That's what a boomer is. Somebody that's needlessly angry at the progress of time. So yeah. Well, and yeah, our agriculture at one point in America, something like 89% of jobs were agricultural based. Now it's less than 1%,
Wow.
because we literally have combines that are driven by AI now. So
Yeah.
they do all the stuff for the intellectual and the manual labor on the farm. Yeah, it's just a tool that can be used. I think that's what it's going to be consigned to there. Thanks for the live. Yeah, man. Thanks for tuning in. And I know this is a busy time of year for a lot of people, so thank you. Yeah, Robert Rodriguez was the director. It was an early film of his. He made I've seen them both, but it's been years, over 20 years, I know. He made an independent film. It's all, I think, in Spanish, and then it was a big hit. So they actually, Hollywood had him remake it. And it's called either original or the Hollywood remake was called El Mariachi, or it might be the name of both. So metronome, rhyming dictionaries, all tools for creators. Yeah. A lot of lyrics are or even just figuring out what word rhymes. You can ask Chat GPT that now. So
we'll probably have to figure out the extent to which AI is used. At what point.
Yeah.
Is it
I would love to see more Star
cool
Trek
or not?
technology where, I was talking to Chat GPT. I'd like to see that kind of integration, because I hate typing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I would love to, even when I'm editing a video, be able to say, okay, take the second video clip, splice it at the 1 minute 26-second mark. I'd love to just say it, And if Neuralink, which they have two human,
I was just about to
people-
mention Neuralink.
Yeah. Well, did you see the big news with that lately?
Last I heard was that the person played a video game using Neuralink.
Well, even more than that. The
Okay.
person had to think that they were putting their hand on the mouse and moving the cursor. You see the cursor on my... Well, actually, I don't think my cursor shows on screen here.
Yeah.
But they had to imagine putting their hand on the mouse, moving the icon, the cursor from the bottom right of the screen up to the upper left. And then he noticed one day he wasn't thinking anymore about putting his hand on the mouse. He just thought the cursor should go from the bottom right to the upper left. So a step was taken out between what he thought and what happened on the screen. And if you use the exponential, I keep forgetting the name of that law. Moore's law with that, if the Neuralink, they now got to prove for a second person. And if that proves to be what happens with that person too, that's proving a condition that the Neuralink, if it continues to improve, the amount of time between when you think something and when it happens with a computer, I mean, that's a cyborg. That's Skynet right there.
Yeah,
it's
wild.
Yeah, and then you plug AI into that neural network, and you get, like you said, a robot body instantly doing what the AI tells it to.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, great talks, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on. What's your? Are you still doing the Lord of the Rings? Is that going to be your next transcription you upload?
Yeah, I'm taking an extended journey through that, so I'll probably be dwelling on that for a while. I might take a break between each installment of the trilogy just to do some other stuff. But I hope to get all, not every piece, but through every piece that I want to transcribe in the trilogy. I hope to get to it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good work, man. And that's something too that we differ from AI. We have to have breaks. We have to have sabbaticals. We have to go away. Even in my piano practice, it does me good. I feel like I have to practice every single day for a certain number, and it can be easy to get caught in that. But sometimes if life just gets so busy and I have 2 or 3 days where I don't touch a piano, I find that when I come back, it's like stuff has gelled.
Mm-hmm.
That one passage that has been giving me trouble for 2 weeks, suddenly, boom, I'm able to do it.
Yeah, our brains need that downtime to fully assimilate and digest.
Absolutely. So, anyway, past couple 2 comments here real quick. Want to thank all of you that joined. Again, if you are watching this after the stream is, feel free to comment and stuff, ask questions. I agree with Keith. I think we could do another live stream and continue this discussion. I feel like we've really only touched the very tip of the iceberg. So we'll either revisit this as a topic for next time, or we'll move to another topic and come back and revisit this one. So if anybody has any ideas of stuff you'd like us to discuss that's music related, if there's a particular even like approach to composition or fundamentals of music kind of question, or, you know, how do I as a non-musician listen to music, that would be a good discussion. Like how can us musicians and people who have created and crafted music, how do we suggest, and I have 15 years of experience teaching like music appreciation and stuff, like how do we suggest that you begin to truly listen to music? Because let's face it, probably 90% of people don't actively listen. You know, they can groove to music, they can dance to music and stuff, but there's a whole other art and science to actively listening to music.
Yeah, I would be very interested in that topic, because I've often wondered, how am I perceiving music differently than other people? You know? Yeah. Or am I not? You know, and if I am, in what ways is my perception different? You know, as someone who actively participates in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So plug your YouTube channel real quick before we do leave. Let me switch to a better view here where it actually shows your. I believe it's your name there. So
yep, just Inga Music. Did you say that you found one other channel with the same name as that? Or
no, that wasn't me.
Okay. Yeah, as far as I know, it's the only channel with that name. And
no. I think that's what I usually search, that, or I search like Star Trek the Motion Picture piano transcription. That usually brings you up, because those are ones of yours I admit I listen to the most. I'm a big fan of those, and you know, again, waiting for you to do the Enterprise. That is.
Well,
amazing.
I didn't mention it yet, but I have actually like halfway transcribed it. I just need to motivate myself to finish it. But
take your time and in the third week in December when you wrap it up, it'll be my Christmas present. So,
okay.
Because I adore that track, and despite
very good
playing it probably 1,000,001 times, I still play it every once in a while, and it still gives me goosebumps. It still is such an enchanting piece of music. So, and by the way, I emailed you today that rejected. I don't know if you listened to it. Somebody took the rejected initial thing and put it to the actual scene, so you can watch what that sounded like. It's crazy how different it is. Yeah. But thanks for coming on and talking, and good talks. And like I said, everybody check out his channel. Check out Keith Horn's channel. Just search Keith Horn. He has a quarter of the week series that is, I would say, start there. It's amazing stuff. And Harrison does some amazing piano transcriptions and has some of his own music he's composed on there. So great stuff. Check it out. And we'll hopefully be meeting in maybe a couple weeks, 3 weeks or so. We're busy guys. We get together when we can, and we discuss all things music. So, all right. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night.
All right, bye.